They said no man could be faster. They said no man could stare into death and blink last. But on the American frontier, words meant nothing until they were proven with blood. Before the legends, before the dime novels, before the myths turned him into something larger than life, there was Wild Bill Hickok, a man whose reputation alone could end a fight before it began, and whose shadow stretched across the Old West like a warning written in steel. James Butler Hickok was born in 1837, long before the frontier would know his name. He grew up on the edge of civilization, where survival demanded discipline and fear was a luxury no one could afford. From a young age, Hickok learned that hesitation was fatal, and awareness was everything. This was not a world of second chances. It was a world that rewarded decisiveness and punished weakness without mercy. Those early lessons would shape a man who did not merely live in chaos, but mastered it. As America pushed westward, the frontier became a proving ground for men who sought fortune, freedom, or escape. It was violent, unpredictable, and ruled more by reputation than by written law. And reputation was something Hickok understood instinctively. He did not seek attention, but attention followed him. Tall, imposing, with long hair and piercing eyes, Hickok looked like a man carved out of the land itself. When he entered a room, conversations slowed. When he placed his hand near a revolver, silence followed. His rise to infamy began not with fame, but with necessity. Hickok worked as a stagecoach driver, scout, and lawman, roles that demanded calm under pressure and the ability to act decisively when surrounded by danger. The frontier tested him early. Violent encounters were not rare, they were expected, and in those encounters, Hickok proved something unsettling to those who watched. He was unnaturally composed. Where others panicked, he calculated. Where others rushed, he waited. And when the moment came, he did not miss. The gun was not an extension of his ego. It was an extension of his will. Hickok practiced relentlessly, developing a style that would become legendary. Calm stance, controlled breathing, deliberate movement. He understood that the fastest man was not the one who moved first, but the one who moved correctly. This philosophy would soon be tested in a moment that would echo across the frontier and change his life forever. In 1865, in the dusty streets of Springfield, Missouri, Wild Bill Hickok faced Davis Tutt, a former friend turned bitter rival. What followed was not a chaotic shootout, but something far more terrifying: a public duel. Two men stood facing each other across the square, the entire town holding its breath. There was no cover, no ambush, just skill, nerve, and reputation. When the shots rang out, it was over in seconds. Tutt fell dead. Hickok stood unmoved. The message was clear. The frontier had just witnessed something rare, a man who did not rely on luck. From that moment on, Wild Bill Hickok was no longer just a man. He was a standard, a measuring stick. Outlaws measured their chances against his reputation. Towns hired him not just for protection, but for deterrence. Violence did not follow Hickok. It avoided him when possible, because men understood something instinctively. Facing him meant betting your life against certainty, but fame is a double-edged blade. As Hickok's name spread, so did the danger. Every gunman looking to make a name saw him as the ultimate prize. Every outlaw dreamed of being the man who killed Wild Bill, and slowly, the frontier began to change around him. What once demanded his strength now demanded his restraint. The same reputation that protected him also painted a target on his back. Yet Hickok did not retreat. He accepted roles as a lawman in some of the most violent towns in the West, places where badges were often invitations to death. He enforced order not with brutality, but with presence. A look, a warning, a reputation earned the hard way. But the cost of living constantly on edge began to show. The man who once trusted his awareness above all else would soon face an enemy no gun could stop. Time. And with time came fate. Because the most dangerous thing about Wild Bill Hickok was never his speed. It was that everyone believed they had to be faster. After the Springfield duel sealed his reputation, Wild Bill Hickok entered a phase of life that few men survive intact. The moment when fear turns into fame, and fame turns into danger. Everywhere he went, his name arrived first. Saloons went silent when he stepped inside. Men watched his hands more than his eyes. Towns hired him not because they wanted violence, but because they wanted to prevent it. Hickok understood this balance better than anyone. As a lawman in places like Hays City and Abilene, Kansas, he enforced order through presence alone, positioning himself carefully, never turning his back to a room, always sitting with a clear view of every door. He wore his revolvers low, handles forward, not as decoration but as warning. And it worked, most of the time. But the frontier was changing. The West was filling with drifters, gamblers, and professional killers chasing notoriety. To them, Wild Bill Hickok was not a deterrent. He was a trophy. Men tested him with insults, with threats, with reckless bravado, hoping to provoke a reaction that would give them a moment of glory. Hickok remained disciplined, but discipline has limits. In 1871, in Abilene, that limit was crossed. While attempting to arrest a drunken troublemaker, Hickok became surrounded. In the chaos, shots rang out. Hickok fired to protect himself and accidentally killed his own deputy, Mike Williams. Though cleared of wrongdoing, the incident shattered something inside him. For the first time, his precision failed him. The frontier had finally taken a price he could not ignore. From that day forward, Hickok was never the same. His confidence remained, but doubt crept in. He began to withdraw from law enforcement, drifting into gambling and exhibition shooting, professions that paid well but fed the danger surrounding him. His eyesight started to fail, a cruel twist for a man whose life depended on awareness. Yet he refused to admit weakness. Pride kept him moving. The West, unforgiving as ever, did not slow down for wounded lions. If this story is gripping you so far, this is the moment to show it. Leave a like, subscribe, and comment below what you think fame does to a man in a lawless world. Because Hickok's story is not just history, it's a warning. As his reputation grew, so did the isolation. Hickok trusted fewer people. He avoided sitting with his back to doors. He slept lightly. Every stranger was a potential assassin. The man who once thrived on certainty now lived surrounded by probability. Still, he kept moving west, chasing card games, buffalo hunts, and rumors of opportunity. He married late, finding brief peace, but peace on the frontier was always temporary. Somewhere ahead, waiting quietly, was the one place where all his instincts would finally fail him. Because no matter how fast a man is, he cannot see the bullet that comes from behind. By the time Wild Bill Hickok arrived in Deadwood, the frontier was no longer the same place that had forged him. The raw chaos of earlier years had begun to give way to something more dangerous, disorder mixed with greed. Deadwood was not a town built on law, but on gold, vice, and impatience. It existed because men believed they could take what they wanted faster than anyone else could stop them. There was no real sheriff, no stable court, no structure strong enough to restrain ambition. For a man like Hickok, Deadwood felt wrong from the moment he arrived, and deep down he knew it. Hickok came to Deadwood not as a lawman, but as a gambler. His eyesight had deteriorated further, a slow betrayal of the very sense that once kept him alive. The man who could read a room instantly now struggled to recognize faces across a table. The West had taken its toll, not through bullets, but through years of constant tension. Still, Hickok refused to see himself as finished. He believed experience could replace speed, reputation could replace reflex, and instinct could replace sight. In a way, he was right, but only to a point. Deadwood tested him immediately. The saloons were crowded, loud, and full of men chasing quick fortune. Hickok did what he always did. He adapted. He chose his seat carefully. He kept his revolvers visible. He watched hands instead of eyes. Yet something was different. The men around him were younger, hungrier, and far less respectful of legends. Many of them had grown up hearing stories of Wild Bill, not fearing him, but idolizing the idea of being the one to end him. Fame had distorted the equation. Hickok was no longer just dangerous, he was valuable. Despite this, he tried to maintain control. He avoided unnecessary confrontations. He focused on card games, playing cautiously, methodically. Gambling had once been a skill. Now it was survival. But Deadwood did not allow peace. Alcohol flowed constantly. Tempers flared without warning. And every night carried the same unspoken tension. Who would make a move, and who would not live to see morning? One of the men watching Hickok closely was Jack McCall. Young, insecure, and drifting, McCall hovered on the edges of saloons, absorbing stories and nursing resentments. Accounts differ on their interactions, but what is clear is that McCall saw Hickok not as a man, but as an opportunity. The West had taught him the wrong lesson, that killing a legend could grant instant meaning to an otherwise empty life. Hickok, for his part, barely noticed him. That was the fatal imbalance. On August 2, 1876, Hickok entered Nuttall and Mann's saloon. The room was crowded, loud, chaotic. Against his instincts, perhaps out of exhaustion, perhaps out of resignation, he sat with his back to the door. Friends noticed. Some warned him. Hickok acknowledged the risk but did not move. Maybe he believed the legend still protected him. Maybe he was simply tired of running from shadows. For the first time in his life, he trusted the room to respect what he represented. Did not. As Hickok played cards, Jack McCall approached from behind. There was no duel, no warning, no chance to turn. A single shot rang out. The bullet struck the back of Hickok's head, killing him instantly. The man who had survived countless gunfights, ambushes, and threats fell without drawing a weapon. The fastest gun in the West was defeated not by speed, but by silence. In death, Hickok held a hand of cards that would become legendary. 2 black aces and 2 black eights. The dead man's hand. A symbol not just of his death, but of the cruel irony of the frontier. Skill could carry a man far, but never forever. The aftermath was chaos. McCall fled, was captured, tried, and initially acquitted in a mock trial held by minors with no legal authority. After Deadwood fell under proper U.S. jurisdiction, McCall was retried, convicted, and hanged. Justice came late, imperfectly, but it came. Yet no sentence could undo what had been lost. Wild Bill Hickok was buried in Deadwood, at first in a shallow grave, later moved to Mount Moriah Cemetery. Crowds gathered. Stories spread instantly. The frontier reacted the only way it knew how, by turning tragedy into legend. Newspapers exaggerated. Dime novels exploded in popularity. Hickok became larger in death than he ever was in life. But beneath the myth, a hard truth remained. The Old West did not kill Hickok because he was reckless. It killed him because it had outgrown the very men who made it survivable. The frontier no longer rewarded discipline. It rewarded surprise. It rewarded cowardice disguised as opportunity. And in that shift, even the greatest could fall. Yet his death marked more than the end of a man. It marked the end of an era. Hickok's life represented a time when skill, presence, and personal code could impose order on death. Proved that chaos always adapts, and America, standing at the edge of modernity, would have to find new ways to define justice. But the story was not over, because legends do not die where they fall. They live on in what they force a nation to confront. Wild Bill Hickok did not die because he was weak, slow, or careless. He died because the world that created him was disappearing. The frontier that once rewarded courage, discipline, and personal code was giving way to a new reality. One where chaos no longer announced itself face to face, where ambition hid behind cowardice, and where legends became targets instead of guardians. Hickok's death was not just the fall of a man, but the symbolic collapse of an era that could not survive its own expansion. For decades, America had relied on men like Hickok to impose order where laws did not yet reach. These were not perfect men. They were flawed, hardened, often lonely. But they carried something essential, a sense of responsibility born from necessity. Hickok enforced peace not through cruelty but through certainty. His presence alone could stop violence before it started. In a land where fear ruled, predictability was safety. And Hickok understood that better than most. After his death, the West moved quickly to romanticize what it had destroyed. Dime novels transformed Hickok into a near-mythical gunslinger, exaggerating his kills, simplifying his struggles, and stripping away the quiet discipline that truly defined him. Hollywood followed, turning complexity into spectacle. But the truth is more powerful than fiction. Hickok was not fearless. He was controlled. He was not violent. He was deliberate. And he did not chase death. He lived constantly aware of it. His story exposes a fundamental American contradiction. The nation celebrates independence and individual strength, yet often discards the very men who carry those values once they become inconvenient. Hickok served the frontier when it needed order. then was left to navigate a world that no longer valued the kind of order he represented. His failing eyesight, his isolation, his drift into gambling were not moral failures. They were symptoms of a society moving faster than its guardians. And yet in that tragedy there is pride. Because Wild Bill Hickok did not abandon his code. He did not turn corrupt. He did not become what he hunted. He lived and died as he had always been, alert, disciplined, and bound by an internal law stronger than any written statute. His death reminds America that progress has a cost, and that those who build stability often do so without guarantees of survival or recognition. Today, Hickok's legacy lives not in how fast he drew a gun, but in what he represented. A man who understood that freedom without order collapses into chaos. That reputation must be earned, not claimed. And that courage is not loud. It is consistent. In remembering Hickok, America remembers a time when character mattered more than convenience, and when men stood their ground not for fame, but because someone had to. If this story made you feel the weight of the Old West, if it reminded you of the grit and resilience that shaped America, take a moment now. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and comment below with one word that describes what Wild Bill Hickok represents to you. These stories survive only when they are shared, and some legacies deserve to ride on.